Here I would like to offer you some tips on how to knit a Dickie. So the Dickie is knitted in the round for the neckline, and then the front and back panels are knitted flat, and you can make a solid color or a striped version. And we have both of these available on our website as DIY kits or as a pattern download. So you can see the neck is just a rib stitch and it's knit in the round. And then here we're splitting the front and back panel. So this style is designed for a beginner knitter, which we assume that you feel comfortable doing knit and purl stitch. So this is a 1x1 rib. It's just one knit, one purl. So when you're done with the neckline, this is knitted in the round. Then in your pattern, you will see that the next stitch would be an increase, KFB, and you can use a stitch marker. Here I'm using a stitch marker to designate beginning of the round. Now we're doing a KFB. So what it does, it's an increase. So you're knitting the front of the stitch and then you're knitting the back of the stitch. So now you have 2 stitches on the needle. When you're done knitting this round, you will have twice as many stitches on your needles. So knit through the front and then knit through the back. So KFB, knit front and back. So in through the front of the stitch and then insert the needle through the back of the stitch and knit. And just keep going until you get to your stitch marker. So we have the stitch marker, we know we're at the end of the round. If you're doing a solid Dickie or a striped Dickie, here you will be switching to a bigger needle size, and for the striped version you will be introducing your second color. So we're going to start knitting with size 19, and you can use the felting needle to introduce the second color. You don't really have to use a felting needle. You can just weave it. You can leave a longer end and weave it in, and you can clean up also later. You can weave it in right now. You can join the 2 yarns, or you can leave it until the end. So we're not knitting with color 1 anymore. We're going to be knitting with color number 2. And if you're doing a solid version, you just keep knitting with the same color. So you can disregard the color changes if you're doing a solid version. So in this case, Sunshine is our color number 2. So you're just leaving the color number 1 alone, and you're just knitting with your second color. And you see how my left hand is holding size 17 and my right hand is holding size 19 needles. So this is how you start knitting with a different size needle if that's what the pattern calls for. So when you're done knitting those 2 rounds with color number 2, this is where we are going to split the panels, the front and back panel. So we're no longer going to need color number 2 for a while, so you can cut the yarn and weave it in the back. You can also do it when you're finished with the project. It's up to you. Some people like to clean it up as they go, and some people like to weave in all the ends at the end of the project. So just be careful. This needle is quite sharp, and we have a separate tutorial on how to use it. So the needle is quite sharp, and go very slow so that you don't break the needle. Transfer the stitch marker, and now we are going back to using color number 1. And again, if you're knitting with a solid color, you can disregard. So this looks like we're doing a round, but actually it's going to be a row. So you're going to only knit half of the stitches here. And you can refer to your pattern for exact number of stitches. So at the beginning, it looks exactly the same as what you've been doing. You're just doing a knit stitch. When you're done, when you think you're done, make sure you count the stitches. So you see you've only knitted half of the stitches. And then, so here, this is where we're at. We are about to do the split for the front and back panel. So instead of going in the round, we're going to flip the knitting, and we are going to knit flat. So refer to your pattern. This now is row number 2 of the front panel. So you keep following the pattern until you get to the stitch marker. Once you get to the stitch marker, you know that this is where you have to stop, and you're going to flip your knitting again. So we're not going, we don't keep going, we're flipping it. We are just knitting the front panel. So we're knitting flat. So you see, like, this is kind of that split. You can clearly see it now. And then you just keep going back and forth until you're done with the front panel, and then you will cast off. So just keep going all the way until you cast off. Okay, this is your second split, so don't forget, every time you get to that split, you flip it. So let's assume you finished knitting the front panel, and you have to attach yarn to do your back panel. Make sure that your project, like the bottom of your neck is on the bottom, and your needles are at the top, and this is where you attach your yarn to do the back panel. And you're gonna start knitting in that direction. So you're facing the right side of the garment, not the wrong side.